There's a guy I know. We'll call him Marcus. He spent 11 years building a real estate portfolio while working a mid-level logistics job. Drove the same beat-up Camry the whole time, ate lunch at his desk, watched his coworkers debate sneaker drops while he quietly auto-invested 18% of every paycheck. Then one day, Marcus made a mistake, not a financial mistake, a social one. He mentioned, casually at a birthday dinner, that he had crossed $800,000 in net worth. He wasn't bragging, he was just being honest with people he trusted. 2 weeks later, his brother-in-law asked him to co-sign a business loan. A college friend texted asking to borrow $12,000 to cover a tax problem. His coworkers started treating him differently. Subtle resentment, comments about how some people have it easy. His actual portfolio hadn't changed a dollar, but suddenly everyone else felt entitled to have an opinion about it. Marcus told me, "I didn't lose a single dollar, but I lost about a third of my relationships." My name's Joe, and I spend too much time thinking about why people who do everything right financially still end up feeling poorer than they should. If you're someone who's quietly building wealth and suspects that announcing it might be the single most expensive mistake you can make, subscribe and give this video a like. Because what I'm about to tell you isn't about investing strategy, it's about the social mechanics of money, and almost nobody talks about this honestly. By the end of this video, you'll understand why visibility is a tax, how social pressure destroys more portfolios than bad stock picks, and what the genuinely wealthy have known for centuries that the newly rich always learn the hard way. Let's start with a story about old money, because this problem is not new. In 19th century Britain, there was a clear divide between two groups of wealthy people, the aristocracy and the nouveau riche. The aristocracy had generational money. They wore it quietly, understated clothes, modest speech, no performance. The nouveau riche, the industrialists and merchants who had just made their fortunes, did the opposite. Biggest houses, loudest parties. They needed the world to know. And here's what's fascinating. The aristocracy looked down on them, not because they had more money, but because they needed to perform it. Old money understood something new money always learns the hard way. The moment you announce wealth, you invite 100 invisible costs: envy, dependency, expectation, resentment, and the pressure to keep spending to justify the image you just created. Think of it like a thermostat. You set it, everything's comfortable. Now imagine your neighbors can see it. Suddenly, everyone has an opinion. Someone thinks it should be warmer. Someone borrows your heat. A few just resent how comfortable you look. You start adjusting the dial based on what other people want, not what keeps you comfortable. Visible wealth is a thermostat everyone else can reach. The moment it becomes social, it stops being fully yours. The mechanism is simple and brutal. Once people know you have money, your spending becomes legible to them. Human beings are wired to read spending as a moral signal. If you have money and don't spend visibly, people assume something is wrong. You're cheap, you're hiding something. So you start spending to manage their perception, not because you want the things, but because you're paying a social tax to maintain a story you never meant to tell.
This is what I call the visibility trap, and it destroys more wealth than bad investments, market crashes, or inflation combined. Here's what the math actually looks like. You have $750,000 invested. At 7% returns, that's $52,500 a year, compounding silently. Now let people know. Lifestyle expectations shift. You spend $1,500 more per month to match them, $18,000 a year leaking out. That same $18,000 invested annually would have been worth nearly $90,000 in 5 years. That's the real cost of visibility, not what you spent, but the compounding you killed. And there's a layer that's harder to quantify, but arguably more dangerous: the loan requests. When people know you have money, they come to you first. Not bad actors, people you love. A sibling with a cash flow problem, a parent who needs a medical bill covered. Good people in hard situations, using information you gave them. And you're put in an impossible position. Help, and you establish a precedent. Decline, and you damage the relationship. Either way, you're paying a cost that didn't exist before anyone knew. I know a woman, let's call her Christine. She was 44 with $1.1 million invested after 18 years of index fund contributions. She mentioned the number to her sister during a vulnerable moment, thinking it would bring them closer. Within a year, she'd co-signed a car loan, helped fund a nephew's failed food truck, and handed over $22,000 in what started as loans and became gifts. She told me, "I don't regret helping. I just wish I had done it on my terms, not because they found out I could." The visible wealth tax is paid not just in dollars, but in autonomy. And autonomy is exactly what you spent years building. So what do the genuinely wealthy actually do? Here's the pattern that shows up across every category of person who builds lasting, quiet wealth. They separate information from action. They don't announce balances. They don't perform lifestyle upgrades publicly the moment they hit milestones. They give generously, but not reactively. They help people they choose to help, not people who assumed they were entitled because they found out a number. And they understand one counterintuitive truth: you are never more financially powerful when nobody knows exactly what you have. Every person who knows your number is a potential leverage point, not because they're malicious, because information creates expectation, and expectation is the quiet enemy of compounding. Here are the 3 practical rules I've seen work. Rule 1. Separate your social life from your financial milestones. Celebrate privately. You can improve your life without explaining why. The milestone is yours. Protect it. The people who need you to perform your success are not your allies in building it. Rule 2. Have a default answer for money conversations. You don't need to lie. You need something honest and unrevealing. I try to keep things simple. I don't really track it closely. Something that closes the loop without drama. Most people stop pressing when there's nothing interesting to pull on. Rule 3. Build your generosity on your terms, in advance. This is the one most people miss. The way to help people you love without the trap is to plan it before anyone asks. Decide who you'll help, how much, under what conditions. Then, when someone comes to you in need, you're not making a reactive decision under pressure. You're executing a plan made from clarity. That's generosity with integrity. It's how you stay generous for decades instead of getting drained in a single year. Here's the identity shift underneath all of this. Our culture is built on visible achievement. We track wealth through signals: the car, the vacation, the house. But every signal is a toll you pay to maintain a story, and the story has its own compounding costs. Once people see you as wealthy, you have to keep performing it, or you look like you failed. The image becomes its own expense. The people who actually reach financial freedom are not the ones who look rich. They're the ones who stopped caring whether anyone knew, not because they're secretive, because they understood that their financial life is theirs, not a public performance for people whose incentives aren't aligned with their compounding. Lazy investing built more fortune than crypto memes, and quiet wealth built more security than visible wealth ever has. The math works the same when no one's watching. In fact, it works better because you're not bleeding out in invisible social costs between every compound cycle. 3 things to take away. First, visibility is a tax. Every person who knows your number is a potential claim on your future. Keep the circle small. Second, social pressure is the most underrated destroyer of long-term wealth. Lifestyle expectations cost more portfolios than market crashes. A bad year recovers, but a permanent reputation as the one with money reshapes your environment for years. Third, plan your generosity before the pressure arrives. Help on your timeline, at your discretion. That's not selfishness. That's how you stay generous for decades. The race is long. The people who finish it ran quietly, without stopping to justify their pace to everyone watching from the sidelines. Know what you have, protect it carefully, and tell almost no one.